Welcome. Reverend Suzanne Grace here, minister, chaplain, and spiritual practitioner here at the Foothill Center for Spiritual Living in Auburn, California. I'm grateful today to share my talk that is based on the Centers for Spiritual Living theme for the month of May, which is Listen to Your Heart. And my talk title is Your Sacred Calling, Your Great Work of Life, Your Dance. I believe we all have an inner dance, something within us that wants to move and express in and through and as us. And I don't know if you've ever been invited onto a dance floor and kind of hesitated and said, I don't know, I have two left feet, I'm not very rhythmic, I'm a little embarrassed, I feel uncomfortable. And yet, life is a dance, isn't it? It has its ups and its downs and its twists and its turns and its swirls. And this dance of life can either be joyous or it can be painful. It can lead us up or drop us down. And it's how we move through this dance of life, how we use our talent and our gift and our strengths to find the flow and get into the flow of life that supports us. So I believe that we each have a spirit and a soul within us that knows exactly how to do that dance. And we have a great partner, which I'll talk about later. So I ask you a question. Do you believe that there's a unique purpose for your life? A unique calling, a unique dance for you? And do you know that there is a spark within you that wants to be fully expressed as you? There is, for each of us. Ernest Holmes, our founder of Science of Mind, said, "The insistent and universal desire for self-expression is the divine urge within us, even God himself tapping at the walls of our heart, urging us on to a fuller life." I love that. We do each exist and come into being so that the divine spark, that impulse, that creativity, that fire can be consciously expressed. And we are each uniquely poised to express those special gifts, talents, strengths that only we can, only you can. It is the call of life itself. Are you answering it? Have you answered the call? What is calling you? What would you love? What would you love? Think about that. What would I love? Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." So we're going to look inside today. Are you willing? Have you ever considered how a rose seed blossoms into a beautiful rose? I believe we can all agree that it doesn't struggle or strive to be what it inherently already is, because everything a rose seed needs to become what it's meant to be is already within it. Think about that. And then we give it the right soil, a little bit of water, some good sunlight, and its natural beauty will emerge. We have a beautiful rose. And just like the rose seed, there's something unique within each of you, a calling, a purpose, a dance, a vision of what your life is meant to be, that wants to emerge, that's waiting for you to open. It's interesting to note that in floral shops, I just found this out, the roses that won't open, that are closed shut, are called bullets. and they are discarded because they will never bloom. They have turned in on themselves so tightly that they can never release their fragrance. Oh. So we have choices, don't we, throughout life? To stay put, to stay tight, or to bloom and to blossom. And I believe it just takes a breath. It takes a mindful intention from our true center that can guide us to flower and bloom. So are you willing to live your life from a place of inspiration and to allow your greatest life to emerge through you as you? And it doesn't matter your age, your education, your background, if you're retired, if you're working, if you're unemployed, it doesn't matter. There's that gift within you that is waiting to emerge. And maybe it already has for some of you. Bravo. And it can even get better, bigger, more expressive. Reverend Michael Beckwith says, we always begin with principle. And the principle is you are one with the power, the presence, and the love of God. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing missing in you. You are loaded and coated, he says, with everything you need. And you came to participate with it so that you can be set free in your life and let your destiny unfold. Yeah. So I invite you to take a moment and imagine we're in our sanctuary here, or you're somewhere, and there's people next to you, probably 6 feet distance. But I want you to turn to the person next to you and actually do this and introduce yourself. Say your name and say, I'm a genius. Introduce yourself as a genius. Okay, here we go. Begin. Hello, my name's Reverend Suzanne, and I'm a genius. Now, just notice, did that make you uncomfortable? Did that seem silly, or you didn't really want to do it and you're a little like, well, am I really a genius? Just notice that. So let's try it again and just pretend, all right? You're going to turn to the next person on the other side of you. Introduce yourself as a genius. Ready? Begin. Hello, my name's Reverend Suzanne, and I'm a genius. How are you? That's a great Dr. Joe Dispenza exercise that he does to remind us that we each have a genius in us that's waiting to express, just like the rose. I actually learned that from him, and so every day I start my day, I stand up after I do my prayers in bed, I stand up, I open my arms, and I say to the universe, what creative genius will I be today? How can I serve? And I just open myself to a possibility, and it feels really good. So now, geniuses, I'd like to talk to you. How many of you actually believe in the idea that the way you think has something to do with the effect on your life? Right? Isn't that what we espouse here? Yeah. So if you think that, then did you wake up this morning and consciously create your future? Oh. Did you? You can, if you want. To change, to truly change anything, as we know, is to think greater and feel greater than our circumstances, our environment, or any situation. We have to rise above to what's possible, to a bigger picture, with feeling and intention. And every wise person in history knew this, didn't they? And neuroscience says it's possible to think so much in advance, to feel that elevated emotion about what it is you want, you're envisioning for your future, that your brain is changed to look like the event has already happened. Wow. Yeah. So we can answer that call from within, but it requires something to move out of your comfort zone. Oh. And you know what the comfort zone is, right? Now, the comfort zone is not bad. It's not bad. And yet, the results of our life will only be at the level of who we think we are or what we think we can do. Think about that. Well, I'm comfortable in my life. I don't want to rock the boat. So if we think we're successful, we'll be successful. If we think we're a failure, if we think we can't do it, the law responds. That's its job. The law responds. We know that. So the comfort zone can create a boundary or a limit. And it's like you're inside of a bubble. And outside of that, there's a door. Imagine there's a door. A door that says what is possible. Unlimited possibilities is outside of that comfort zone. So staying in your comfort zone may not uncover your sacred work, your sacred calling, your unique gift, your dance, your great work of your life, if you're just staying in here. So are you currently doing what you love and love what you're doing? And if not, why? Why? Oh. Just take a breath with that. Be gentle. Be gentle with yourself. What would you love? What would you love? What do you need to embrace in your life? Dr. Holmes also said, you need not ask what others have done or how they have done it. Be yourself and express life as you find it. Never imitate. Trust the self. Find the self in God and God in the self. Gay Hendricks wrote a great book called The Great Leap. The Big Leap. And in it he talks about different zones of competence and the zone of genius. But he says that we have to be willing to move out of our comfort zone because our zone of genius is a unique power. It's a one-of-a-kind quality that only you have. And it lets you do certain things better than anybody else. It is using your full potential. Wow. And while we sometimes share common skills and creativity, your zone of genius cannot be replicated by anyone. And we all carry the genius gene, I believe. Introduce yourself as a genius. So in the book, The Big Leap, there are 4 zones of expression. Number 1 is the zone of incompetence, where you do activities, but you're not really very good at them. And a lot of people do them better. Number 2 is the zone of competence, where you do activities that you're competent at, you're okay at them, but others do them just as well or better. And 3 is the zone of excellence. Those are activities that you do extremely well, and you make a living at it, and you're highly skilled at it. And not many people can do it better. And he says that this zone is very seductive to remain in. And it's good, it works, it's excellence. But then he says there's this next level, the zone of genius. Those set of activities that I said are uniquely suited to you. Nobody does them quite like you. Time feels different. Effort feels different. You're engaged. You're fulfilled. You lose all sense of comparison, separation, effort. This zone of genius liberates and expresses your sacred calling, your divine genius. And again, I believe that there's that urge within each of us, a sacred calling that's calling us to lift up even higher than we are. So what would it feel like if you did commit to uncovering your zone of genius? What would it feel like? Take a breath with that. Is it scary? Is it frightening? Is it uncomfortable? That's okay. But notice it, because you might want to work with a coach or a practitioner around that fear and resistance. That's why I love being a life coach and a spiritual counselor. I love helping people move from what is to what's possible, to move out of that comfort zone, to pull up the seeds of doubt and worry and fear and step into their magnificence, to move from a question mark in their life to an exclamation point. And it's very possible, very doable. I know that my minister's heart and my minister's consciousness and spirit is the backbone of what I do in all of my work with my clients. Saint Teresa of Avila had an interesting thought about the soul and its purpose. And I'm teaching a class right now called Practical Mysticism, and we're using this book called Entering the Castle by Carolyn Myss, Finding the Inner Path to God and Your Soul's Purpose. And Teresa of Avila was a 16th century saint, and she moved through her experience of the soul through what she called the mansions, the 7 mansions. And I want to read a little bit because it's very apropos to what we're talking about today. So Carolyn Myss says, all mystics discovered profound inner resources of the soul as they grew in their trust of God. Yet people fear their lives will change if they really follow their passions. Soul passions are a powerful grace. Knowing that you can have such a force within you begs the question, how can you not release your light? How can you not release your light? What would that be like, she asks. The capacity to see goodness in another person reflects a light in your own soul, as does the capacity to be compassionate, generous, understanding, and gentle. What light do you hold in your soul? Your particular light is your charisma. It's a type of grace, unique to every person that embodies his or her spiritual essence. Name your light. Name your light. What is the essence of the grace that is you? Look deeply into your soul and identify its forces of light. You have boundless qualities, she says, that makes up the complexity of who you are, and you probably haven't encountered them all. Your charisma directs your life path, so you need to know what it is. Life moves through passages that can be confusing, difficult, and painful, or outrageously abundant, lavish, and happy. You can lose yourself to achieving abundance as easily as you can to starvation. You can rely on your charisma, your essential self, to guide you, however. And you know when you have compromised yourself just a bit too much, when you're not the real you. Follow your charisma, your light, and you will inevitably find your soul. That inner calling, that sacred calling, that dance, that's only you. It's there. And then she has a great story, a true story. And she talks about how our ordinary skills can be transformed into cosmic ones. A former nurse named Karen loved to sing but did not have a beautiful voice. She barely had a voice at all, in fact. And she was at the hospital visiting her daughter, who had just given birth to her first grandchild, when she was quite taken by a desire to walk around the hospital floor and check out the other babies. She came upon a very young woman by herself with her newborn, and she was obviously terrified of being a new mom. The woman was panicking because she could not calm her infant and was convinced that the baby was not bonding to her. Karen walked into the room and asked if she could help. Immediately, the young mother turned over her infant to her, saying, "He won't stop crying. He hates me." "Oh, he doesn't hate you," Karen said. "He's just trying to get his bearings. He just got here. This is a big world to get used to," she told her, while she, a well-seasoned mother, now turned grandmother, began to rock the baby and sing it a soft lullaby. The baby relaxed into the soothing rhythm of her voice and the gentle rocking. "Does singing work?" asked the new mother. "Oh, I guess it must," said Karen, thinking that only an infant is too young to be a critic. Something about that experience, however, stayed with Karen. And months later, she went back to the hospital to check out the nursery again and to see the head nurse to ask if there were any openings for nurses who wanted to work with newborns. By coincidence, the hospital was desperate for nurses. So she started the next week in the nursery holding emergency care infants and singing to them. Karen told Carolyn Myss, "I realized as soon as I walked into that nursery that I was called by God to be there, and that I was meant to use my voice to channel grace into these newborns. They find my voice soothing and healing and perhaps grounding." Karen received God in her way and in God's way. She was not looking for an experience of God. God came calling for her. What a sweet story. What's calling you? How can you serve? What is your genius just waiting to sprout? I want to share with you something someone showed me one time, a story by a famous person called Anonymous, and the word guidance. And if you look at the word guidance, you see the word dance in it. And G-U-I, God, you and I dance. God, you and I dance. Isn't that an interesting thought? You know, when two people try to lead a dance, I don't know if you've ever tried, nothing feels quite right. The movement doesn't flow, it's jerky, everything feels off. And then one of the people realizes that, oh, someone needs to lead. And so the lead gently takes a nudge of maybe the back and leads the person or leans them in a direction, and everything starts to flow. What would it be like in your life to let go and be led by the divine, moving in unison with your sacred calling, with your divine calling? And I have to say that this dance takes a surrender, a willingness to let go of control, to be mindful, to be willing, to trust that our life is divinely guided. And can we let Spirit lead? Let's affirm together. Repeat after me. Today, I am willing to answer the call, to discover, liberate, and express my divine genius. Let's say it again. Today, I am willing to answer the call, to discover, liberate, and express my divine genius. because there's something within you that this world needs right now. There is. You're special. You are a beneficial presence on this planet. Don't hide your light. Let it shine. So I want to close with a poem by Ernest Holmes, our founder, Science of Mind, and this was written in 1926. And Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook, it's very intellectual, most of it, but there's parts of it that are very poetic. And this is the poetic side of Ernest Holmes. And it's called The Call. This I saw, or else some greater presence made it known to thee. The universe is filled with life, the earth, the sky, the sea, and teemed with intelligence, with majesty and might. Deep within me some subtle inner sight beholds and sees, comprehends and knows the all. No fears, no falters, but answers the divine call. To be as one beyond the bonds of time and space, to overcome the bondage of the human race, and to leap with trust, undaunted and free, into the depths of that infinite sea, whose waters, calm, are ready to receive those who in simple faith believe. What is the great work of your life? I invite you this week to take some time to meditate, to contemplate, to listen to that inner voice of where you can step into your zone of genius and express your gift. Express your gift. You are unique. You are magnificent. I know that. And I'm so grateful to hear from you about what it is that you're going to step into. And to know that you have a fantastic partner, a dance partner in the divine, if you choose. Enjoy your week, and thank you so much for being here with me today. Peace and blessings. Namaste.